What, honey? Did, what now? Mhm. Did the picture have the what, honey? Oh, yeah. You're good. Okay, people. Let's quiet down. Get ready. We are just going to take notes on 2 quick slides today. And going to talk about Eleanor of Aquitaine. And then you're going to read just a really short biography about her and answer a couple questions. She is a really important lady. She's one of my favorite queens. She has quite a background, and we'll meet her again when we move into our next section about kings and power, and specifically we'll be looking at England in that aspect where kings are trying to assert their power. The laws are trying to keep them from going above and beyond what they would like to do. So if you will close up your laptops, phones put away where I do not see them, and we will take a look at, yes, sir. If you walk around behind in that red box over there, Houston, it's over there. Actually, it's easier for me. Hold up. I'll get it. Molly, I forgot the phone. Can you pass that back to Houston, please? All right, there you go. See you tomorrow, Molly. Okay, here we go. So we ended our look at nobility. Corbin, please put that away. Thanks. We ended our look at nobility. We moved into that feudal kingdom, what all of those people were in charge of, what they had to ensure to their lord, what the knight had to take care of as the property that was given to him. And hopefully you've seen, we haven't talked yet about the women of this part. So I don't think I have you fill anything out on this page because we're not really going to spend a lot of time necessarily talking about aristocratic women. They have a role to play, mostly because men are gone so often. So men are gone to make war. We're going to talk about women during the Crusades. They are in charge of the castle. So they will be in charge of making sure everything is maintained. And in that aspect, they will hold a little bit more power than women that we've studied up to this point. But in particular, we're going to look at Eleanor of Aquitaine. Eleanor of Aquitaine has a very long and important history. First, she really does live for a long time. I think she's almost in her 70s when she dies, which is unusual for the time period. She was married to 2 kings, which is, again, this kind of illustrious life that she leads. She had a very desirable parcel of land, which that's Aquitaine. I wish I always have Mrs. Murdoch pronounce it to me in French because it sounds, again, like music in French. But this land that she has that's attached to her name, so that's what that last part of her name of Aquitaine, that's actually land that she owns, that moves with her when she gets married, is a very desirable part of land. And her first husband is King Louis VII, who, again, wants to marry her because of growing the size of France. She actually goes on a crusade with Louis. They are very incompatible, and being very delicate in a high school setting. They have their marriage annulled because it never was a marriage in the biblical sense. So the king applied for annulment from the priest, from the Pope, and the Pope said, your marriage is annulled, which means it never really happened. And at that point, she is then married off to Henry II of England, and that's where her story gets really kind of crazy. We'll meet Henry II probably tomorrow. He is a really important king in the history of England, as well as she is that important in his story as well. She's going to have, I think, 5 children. Most importantly, she's going to have 3 sons, 2 of which become the King of England. So for her long history, she has one of the few, she's one of the few women, I think the only woman that can say they were married to 2 kings and had sons that were 2 kings. Any of you that are familiar with the Disney movie Robin Hood, when in that movie Robin Hood, there's 2 kings, good King Richard, that's Eleanor and Henry's son, and then the bad King John that always has the snake talking to him, that's also her son. So she again has an extremely important role to play both as a wife and as a mother. She also encourages both of her sons to kind of overthrow her husband. Lots of historians believe that she tried to poison him and kill him. And as a result of that, whether that's true or not, Henry II believed it. And so he kind of put her on house arrest. He put her in a castle and surrounded her, and she was stuck there for a very long period of time. And she worked very hard for her oldest son, Richard, to become king. He will be king for a while. He'll spend most of his time in the Holy Land on a crusade. And he will, on his way back home, will be kidnapped, held for ransom, all that other good stuff. King John will rule while Richard is gone and gets this idea of bad King John. He does have some very bad qualities, but she is an incredibly important woman for this time period, and also a very, very religious lady. She's one of the few women that actually go on a crusade herself. She goes and rides with her husband on a crusade into the Holy Land, and that is both the king and queen when they die. So before you get all, I want to take a step or a second just to kind of talk to you about what happens when kings and queens die, because it's really kind of weird when we think about it in a modern time. The very first thing that happens when especially a king dies, they make a wax effigy of the king full body. So there's a mask made and like a mold, and so the king is redone full life size everything in a wax type of statue, dressed, crown, robes, jewelry, and then will become part of the funeral procession that will go through whatever town, London, Paris. It's a very odd thing, I think, that happens. For historians, it's pretty awesome because that's kind of how we know what they look like, because these wax molds of their face. Mourners follow after crying. People are paid to be mourners. People are paid to cry. And that, again, is part of why we have these statues kind of dead people, which are, again, very much a normal part of the religious death. The next thing that will happen is their heart will be cut out. So their heart's cut out and will be buried separately, which has proven very awesome. I'm not a science person at all, and I don't understand most of it. But what's fairly awesome is that these hearts have now been able to prove DNA and let us see lots of different things that had stories, historical myths that King Louis the 16th son survived, which he did not. And it was proven by this heart being found and DNA being run on that. So when kings die and queens die, there are just this whole kind of taking care of the body and cutting out the heart and burying it separate. That makes all of that very interesting. So that is all I have, except for reading Eleanor. Caroline, I didn't see you come in. I'm glad you're back too. Everybody almost is back. We're just waiting for our basketball person to come back. So that's awesome. So you're reading a little bit more about Eleanor of Aquitaine. And then tomorrow we switch gears and we go back and look more at kings. So I think I have everything on the homepage listed that you need to turn in today. Your shield, make sure those of you that did the essay on Google Docs, make sure you turn that into the appropriate, turn in your feudal kingdom and that write-up as well. And make sure you've caught up on your bell questions from yesterday. All right. Does anybody have any questions at all about stuff? Okay. Thank you for your attention.